Hello and welcome to one and all. I, Dr. Asabri Sawant, welcome you all to a very insightful session on the topic of breast cancer awareness. This is a spotlight session on breast cancer awareness, an initiative of Integrated Health and Wellbeing Council and being supported by Roche. So today we convene on a profound sense of purpose as we delve into the relay of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, a critical juncture in our calendar that underscores the imperative early detection, intervention, and a multidisciplinary approach in the face of breast cancer care. This annual observance of Breast Cancer Month finds its origins in the early 1980s when a dedicated cadre of healthcare professionals recognized the exigent need to elevate awareness around this complex and prevalent malignancy of breast cancer. Since then, Breast Cancer Awareness Month has begun into a global phenomena, galvanizing a diverse spectrum of stakeholders from researchers to clinicians in an unparalleled union of purpose for generating public health awareness around breast cancer. So why does this month bear such relevance in our medical discourse today? At the crux of this pertinence lies the staggering prevalence of breast cancer, a disease that ranks at the most diagnosed malignancy amongst women worldwide. Indeed, with over 2 million newly identified cases annually, breast cancer constitutes a substantial global health concern. However, it is imperative to understand that these figures encapsulate not merely statistics, but real lives, mothers, daughters, and children whose journeys have been irrevocably altered by a breast cancer diagnosis or a late diagnosis. The crux of our gathering today underscores the gravity of disseminating knowledge on breast cancer. It empowers us as future healthcare professionals, equipping us with the nuance of understanding of risk factors, genetic predispositions, and lifestyle elements that shape susceptibility. It proffers the tools to advocate for and facilitate early screening and self-examination, which are instrumental in the detection of anomalies at the most treatable inception. Moreover, Breast Cancer Awareness Month serves as a clarion call for unity and support. It endangers the sense of community, facilitating the provision of not only clinical care, but also the indispensable emotional and psychological scaffolding for those navigating the labyrinth of treatment. It reverberates with the resilience of survivors, serving as a beacon of hope for those enriched in their own battles. As we transition into the discussion today and the series for breast cancer awareness, owning on to the intricacies of risk factors in breast cancer, let us get this collective endeavor and together and potential that charts the transformative course. Breast Cancer Awareness Month transcends its nomenclature. It is not merely an initiative, but an unwavering force, a testament to the potentiality of our collective action. It beckons us as a budding medical professionals and a society to make it more aware, make people more aware around breast cancer, and to play a pivotal role to fight against the breast cancer. Together, we embark on this series today, and we continue our mission to raise awareness around breast cancer in various aspects. Today, we delve into a critical topic of breast cancer and its risk factors, and we are honored to have Dr. Nidhi Tandon, consultant medical oncologist with Narayana Health City, Bangalore, with us today for providing crucial information and knowledge and awareness on this topic. So let's start with the discussion.
Much, Dr. Asabri. It is a great pleasure and a great honor to be a part.
With that, let us get started with the discussion, ma'am. So, ma'am, as the topic is breast cancer and its risk factors, we will be highlighting different aspects around breast cancer, focusing on the risk factors to make our audience understand what it is so that they are better prepared for this. So, the first question is, could you please elaborate on the risk factors associated with breast cancer, and what are some of the factors that increase a person's likelihood for developing breast cancer?
It's a very important question, Dr. Asavri, because the incidence of breast cancer has been increasing in India lately. There are three types of risk factors involved with breast cancer. The first is a genetic risk factor. It may be a gene that is passed hereditarily, which is causing breast cancer, like BRCA1 and BRCA2 genes. Apart from that, also, if you have a strong family history of breast cancer and ovarian cancer, your lifetime risk is more than the general population. The second is the hormonal factor. Starting periods early, continuing periods till a late age, having your first child above the age of 30 to 35 years, not being able to breastfeed your child, all these expose our breast to a lot of estrogen, which is not negated by other hormones, and that also increases the risk of breast cancer. Lastly, and one of the most important factor which is in our control is the lifestyle that has changed over time. Obesity, more fat in diet, more sugars in diet, more processed food, lack of physical activity, all this also leads to an increase in the body mass index and hence increase the risk of breast cancer. Stress at home, at workplace is also found to be associated with breast cancer.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, ma'am, for so comprehensively explaining us all different factors. So, as we can understand, it is not just one reason that causes breast cancer. There are multitude of risk factors that can, potentially lead to developing breast cancer, and we need to make our audience aware on all these aspects. So, ma'am, moving on, the next question we would like to know from you is, can you please shed some light on the role of genetics and family history in breast cancer? How does that work out?
So, first of all, I will like to clarify 2 points. Number one, if your mother or your aunt or your sister had breast cancer, that does not make it that you will get it. Number two, only about 5 to 10% of the breast cancers are genetic in nature, 90% are not genetic in nature. Now, coming to genetics as a factor for causing breast cancer, if you have a strong family history, and what do we mean by a strong family history? Your relatives developed breast cancer below the age of 45 years. If you have three or more members in the family who had breast or ovarian cancer, if you had a female relative who developed breast cancer in both the breast, or she developed breast as well as ovarian cancer, or if you have a male relative in the family who had breast cancer, these are the people who have the chances of the cancer being genetic in nature, and in such cases we test for BRCA1 and BRCA2 genes. If these genes are positive also, we have modalities to screen more efficiently, and there are some risk reduction strategies also, so that even if a person carries the gene, the chances of his or her developing a cancer is reduced.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So, I believe at this point, let us discuss a little bit about the role of genetic counseling as well, as we have shed light on the role of genetics. So, what importance does counseling play into it?
Right. So if you fall into the category which I just discussed, according to that, then there is a simple blood test which can be done, which can tell us whether you carry the gene which can cause breast cancer or ovarian cancer or not. Before and after uh, doing that test, there are specific genetic counselors involved who explain what is the risk involved if you get the gene, and how can we reduce that risk to prevent you from getting breast or ovarian cancer.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for so explicitly explaining these aspects. Moving on, could you also please touch upon how lifestyle factors like diet and physical activity can impact breast cancer risk? As we have been seeing, as you told, we have been seeing a rise in the rates of breast cancer, and we have been also seeing a rise in the sedentary lifestyle these days in women. So, how are these two related?
One very important factor is diet. Our diet is high, apart from it being high in fat and carbs, it is high in processed foods as compared to fresh fruits, vegetables, which are high in antioxidants. So this increases the risk. Um, the lack of physical activity also increases the risk, especially in women who are achieving the menopause and getting overweight. Because of these factors, the risk of breast cancer increases significantly. It has also been found that stress is an important factor of risk factor for breast cancer. In fact, it was found that women who work are more likely to get breast cancer than women who are homemakers. I'm a career woman myself, but so I do not at all say that it is not important. But what I mean to say is that we must take care of our own health, and we must take care of our mental health as well as the physical health.
Thank you, ma'am. Those were some very valuable points that you mentioned. And I'm sure that our audience that is listening are taking notes and making sure that, in their life, they're able to reduce these risk factors in some way or the other. So, moving on, the next question that we would like to know is, in the Indian context that we see, are there any specific risk factors or challenges that you see that can be related to breast cancer that our audience should be aware of?
So the more and more we are following the Western culture, the more and more is the risk of breast cancer increasing. Apart from the stress we talked about, nowadays we are getting married late. We are either not having a child, or we are having a child at a later age, and because of maybe work pressure or other issues, we are not able to feed as long as we used to do. And because of all these, the risk of breast cancer is increasing in our country. So we must be knowing about these risk factor, because there are ways to come over it, so that for example, if a lady decides to have a child, if she is aware that it's better to have the child before the age of 30 years instead of the age of above the age of 35 years, then she can plan her career accordingly.
So, on the same note, there is a following question that I wanted to know. So, as you shared, our lifestyles that have been more westernized or more modernized are, affecting, adding to these risk factors that women are developing in India. So, how is the modern lifestyle playing a role in rising cases apart from stress? Are there any specific points that you can highlight so that our audience that is watching can, incorporate preventive measures along those lines?
So we consume a lot more junk food. We are not able to exercise as much as before, and because of our, we would be doing education till 30s or working till late 35 40s, and because of that we are not able to have a plan a family or breastfeed our child. These are the risk factors in the urban setting which are increasing the risk. Pollution is another important factor which is not directly related to breast cancer, but it definitely increases the risk of other cancers, especially lung cancer.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much for describing all the different risk factors in such nice detail. We would also want you to talk about this aspect, that does reproductive and menstrual health history also have a role in increasing breast cancer risk?
So, unexposed estrogen increases the risk of breast cancer. So, there is an estrogen hormone which, if not negated, increases the risk of breast cancer. So, if a lady does not develop menarche before, so if a lady develops menarche before the age of 12 years, or a lady develops menopause after the age of 55 years, again does not have a pregnancy in which estrogen is opposed, all these factors increase, hormonal factor increase the risk of breast cancer.
So, just for creating our audience, can you also please elaborate what does menarche and menopause mean for those of the audience that don't know?
So menarche means when a girl starts having period, if that is developed before the age of 12 years, and menopause is when a lady stops having period. If that age is above 55, that increases the risk of breast cancer.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Uh, so I believe there is few more questions that are left. The next question is, when should one begin screening for breast cancer, and what should be the frequency of such screenings so that our audience is made aware and better is able to better protect themselves?
So, there are two types of screening. One is a clinical screening and one is a radiological screening. Radiological screening means when you do a scan. So, for the clinical screening, uh, you may palpate your breast at the same time of your period cycle every month, or whenever you go to your doctor once a year, you can get it checked. As regards to a scan, mammography is an X ray of the breast that is recommended to be done once every 2 years above the age of 50 years. For the ladies who have genetic risk factors, we start the screening earlier and the recommendations are slightly different.
How common is, you see amongst your female patients getting preventive screening done for breast cancer, or is there still a need for more awareness in this regard, that more and more women should come up and get preventive screening done at least at these ages that you have defined? What do you feel in your practice? What do you observe?
Unfortunately, in India, and for that matter, even abroad, women do not take care of their health as much as men. And, anyways, in India, screening for disease is lesser frequent. You go, it is the culture is that you go to a doctor only if you are sick. In fact, if you do this screening, we find the disease at a very early stage when it is over 90% curable. So it is very important for the women to get screened for cancer. The sad part or the reality is that we have women who have seen a lump in the breast but have not come out because of the fear of cancer. I would say that if you come out, um, it in early stage it is very curable, and even in advanced stages we have enough treatment modalities available that we can prolong your life for years.
Ma'am, what are the measures that can be adopted to reduce all these risk factors that we have discussed in this session? Can you please yeah, elaborate those and also mention if there are any specific ways that can be adopted or techniques or food items that help in reducing your risk for developing breast cancer in future, if there are any?
So there are certain factors which are non-modifiable, like when you get your periods, when you stop your periods, etc. Or what family history do you have. But there are certain factors which are modifiable. So I would recommend a diet which is high in antioxidants, which are seen in fruits, vegetables. So these are fresh fruits and vegetables. I would avoid all canned and tinned items. I would include exercise at on a regular basis, especially in women who are nearing the age of menopause. So these are the factors which can be modified to reduce the risk of breast cancer.
So much, ma'am. And with the growing awareness around cancer in general, specifically breast cancer, we hope to make more and more people aware in this regard, and so that they are all aware what causes the risk of cancer, so that they are able to better protect themselves and eliminate these risks from their lifestyle. Moving on to the very last section of our discussion today, we would like to go on and on discussing this with you. But what would be your key takeaway message for the audience that is watching?
My key takeaway message is that early diagnosis of any cancer, especially breast cancer, save a lot of lives. So it is very important to get screened for breast cancer. It is very important to go to a doctor if you suspect any lump or hardness or nipple abnormality, so that it is treated as soon as possible and you lead a normal and a healthy lifestyle.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much for sharing all these insights. So we discussed about, so the topic of the discussion was breast cancer and its risk factors, and we pretty much covered the entirety of the section in great detail. We, from starting from the risk factors associated with breast cancer, we also discussed what is the role of genetics and family history, the importance of genetic counseling amongst families who have a risk of developing breast cancer and those genes. We also were able to discuss any specific risk factors or challenges that are related to breast cancer. We also discussed the role of modern lifestyle and the role of reproductive and menstrual health history for as a risk factor for breast cancer. We also discussed what importance early screening and early detection play for reducing and catching such cases early, so that the prognosis and the treatment is better carried out in future. And also the scenario that we see around awareness around early screening and early detection of breast cancer also was discussed. With that, we had a very informative, great session with you. Thank you so much, Dr. Nidhi Tannen, for taking out time from your busy schedule and imparting us with wealth of knowledge and information.
Thank you very much, Dr. Asavri, and thank you, IHW, for taking this noble cause. Thank you very
Thank you so
much.
much for your invaluable insights. Your knowledge undoubtedly will help our audience to understand this complex issue so much better. We would also like to thank our partner, Roche, who came up with this brilliant initiative on raising awareness around breast cancer for the Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Thank you so much. We would also like to thank our audience for staying with us till the very end. I hope this discussion was insightful. With that, we conclude today's session. And remember that awareness and education are the key. Early detection and risk reduction are very vital in fighting the fight against the breast cancer. That's all for today. We invite you all to join us again for another important discussion in the breast cancer awareness series. Meantime, please stay connected with us on social media platforms for more health information updates. Together, we can make a difference in the fight against breast cancer. Thank you so much.
Thank you.